Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our September calendar meeting. We're going to start with letting the interpreters do their introductions.
Hello, this is French. Bonjour, ça c'est le français. Pour accéder à l'interprétation en français, composez le 347 966 41 14 à partir de votre téléphone et entrez le code 190 161 019 suivi de la touche dièse. Je répète, le numéro de téléphone, c'est le 347 966 41 14 et le code, c'est le 190 161 019 suivi de la touche dièse. Merci. Thank you. Bye.
All right, start of Spanish announcement. Bienvenidos a todos. Tenemos interpretación simultánea disponible en español. Para acceder a esa línea, favor marcar desde sus teléfonos el 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 996-483-679, signo numeral. Repito, el número de sus teléfonos que van a marcar es el 347-966-4114 y el código de conferencia es el 996-483-679, signo numeral. Favor mantener sus micrófonos en silencio para así evitar los ruidos de fondo y así garantizar la calidad de la interpretación. Gracias. End of Spanish announcement.
Russian. Good evening. The following message will be in Russian. Для того, чтобы прослушать сессию на русском языке, пожалуйста, наберите телефон 347-966-4114 и добавочные 476-135-710. Еще раз, телефон 347-966-4114 и добавочные пин-код 476-135-710 решетка. Большая просьба заглушить ваши микрофоны на компьютерах, телефонах и айпадах, чтобы не мешать выступающим. Большое спасибо и приятной встречи сегодня. Дан.
Thank you, interpreters. We're now going to have roll call for our members by our fantastic new AA, Cecilia Lloyd.
Roll call for Felina Zhang, Nova Adadashian. Yeah. Joe Rick Mill. Present. Jeffers, City and Senate. Gabriella Graham. Need to be a part. Yep. Just them. All right. Our President Sharon Collins.
Here.
Ursula Jones. Love. Here. Roberta Flacco. Dale Denbo. Here. Ting Young Wan. And Dr. D.
So we're gonna table our approval of the August calendar minutes until our next meeting and move into our co-president's report. My colleague Ursula could not be here tonight, so I'm gonna present the co-president's report. So welcome everyone to a new academic year. It's an exciting time for our students and our children at the beginning of a new school year. I know that New York City and our D3 schools in particular have had a big focus last year on reading and reading curriculum. We had a CEC3 committee about that. And we're very interested, I'm sure, in the superintendent's report later. We'll hear about how our students are doing with reading. And I know I'm particularly interested in our ELs and our migrant students and their progress over the past year. I know that a big push this year is going to be with mathematics, and I'm super excited about that. We'll be having a committee for any of you interested in learning more about the mathematics curriculum and teaching in our D3 schools. I wanted to share, I'm also part of Teacher America, and they have a 2030 goal that's focused on mathematics. This is the goal. By 2030, twice as many children in districts in the Bronx and Brooklyn will achieve proficiency in 8th grade math, indicating that they are on a path to economic mobility and co-creating a future filled with possibility. The reason they're focused on 8th grade math is because it's been shown that 8th grade math actually determines what math and STEM classes you take in high school, which determines your college majors, which determines your profession one day and your economic mobility. So mathematics is incredibly important. We have to move away from this idea that only some students are good at math and schools don't have to put a focus on math. Definitely, we need to have the focus on math, and we're doing that in District 3 this year, and we're super excited to see where that will lead us. The other thing I wanted to share from Teach for America is their mission statement, I think resonates with all of us at the beginning of a new school year. And it's that vision that one day all children in New York City will have the opportunity to attend great neighborhood schools that support, inspire, and challenge them to be the leaders our city needs. Leadership in our city, our society, our country, our world is very lacking at this moment. And we need leaders who are full of integrity, who have this sense of social justice, who really serve the communities that elected them, and really have empathy and compassion and are focused on others instead of themselves. So hopefully with our students, this is what they're learning in schools. And as this quote said, that this is going to be, these students are going to become the leaders that our society greatly is in need of. On a personal note, I want to welcome our new AA, Cicely Lloyd. Welcome, welcome to the CEC3 family. Yeah. And at this point, I want to turn it over to our Office of District Planning presentation.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Hi, so Christina, sorry, the sound is reflecting a little bit. Christina, if you're able to have access to share your screen, I'm gonna stand to the side and present while you present with the slides, and I'll have the paper deck in my hand, so that way the sound doesn't reflect.
Great.
Unless there's no, it's better now. Okay, so I'll be able to just stand here and talk to everyone. And I just won't have the ability to use the slides. So Christina, if you're able to share your screen.
Yes, I just need access. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. Could I request access to share my screen?
Can she have access to share? Like
Thank you.
screen? Yeah. Thank you.
So you said she's gonna share now?
Yeah, she's gonna share her screen just so Christina Chan.
Thank you.
Is she able to see it? I might be able to share my screen actually. So I'm gonna try to share my screen because I think, no, I also don't have the ability to share my screen. Right, so.
Whoever is on.
Ah, okay. Yeah. You do it. Please. Yeah.
He'll have to give access.
Pardon? Oh. Sure. Actually, that might be.
Caitlin, sorry, this is Jonathan. Just want to say, just now the audio sounded good.
Right now?
Yeah, like there's no, at least on mine, just
Okay, I am not really able to hear you. I can kind of hear you, but not really. Which is okay. Sorry? So I'm gonna email the presentation to Superintendent Samuels, and he is going to use it because the person who has the access is on their way.
Due to some tech issues, we're gonna switch our order a little bit. We're gonna now go to the superintendent's report.
Hi, everyone. Okay, that's good. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming tonight. And I will start by saying it's been a wonderful start to the school year. Really, really amazing start. A lot of things happening in our schools. As I like to tell people, do I need this for here? Yeah, you guys good? All right. As I like to tell people, if you can't get excited about this time of year in our system, then find a new career. This is where it's at in September. And so today we're gonna really share some data, talk about some current events in our district, and then we'll do a little bit of an overview and we'll get some more deep dives in the upcoming months with our diversity grant. So we're very excited and super happy all of our principals have had an amazing start to the school year. And one of those principals happened to be hosting you tonight, Carlin Washington over there. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us. West Prep, I think, was on everyone's mind and everyone's agenda last year. And I want to make sure we keep West Prep on everyone's mind and everyone's agenda, because last year West Prep was, and I've always said, was a hidden gem in our district. And now we want to take the hidden off, right? And just make West Prep a gem and the gem in our district. So we have to do a lot of work in terms of getting the word of the school out there and amazing things that happen. I know, Jill, you were touched by the work that happened here last year, and we're going to keep that enthusiasm. And so again, Carlin, I just want to thank you for all the work you did over the summer and all your teachers and parents did to get this ready and get us here. I see our folks from facilities are here too. Thank you all for your work. You did amazing, amazing work. You know, and the chancellor, the deputy chancellor, everybody's been here to kind of not only wish West Prep well, but to make sure that the conversation will continue to go on. We have a very specific ask that the CEC and others will get involved with, is to ensure that we get outdoor space on the roof as we go forward. We cannot, you know, you may not have as many parents in your ear, but I guess Carlin and I will have to shout hard to make sure that you guys help us on that journey to continue to advocate. It's on the chancellor's agenda. He wants to do it. And so we want to make sure that happens. And that said, I wanted to talk a little bit about the events that took place at the Brandeis campus. When was this now? So this, yeah, it's Thursday. So as a part of all of us in the DOE, we do what's called the general response protocol, how we respond to an incident. Last week, there was reports of a student with a gun in a bathroom on the Brandeis campus, and as a result, a hard lockdown was called. Like when a principal calls a hard lockdown, it simply means that everybody should hide as much as they can. There's imminent danger in your school. And, you know, as a result of that, we in PS9 and Center School, which is one of my schools, the high schools are not under my superintendency, but we were instructed to shelter in. All of those things happen and happen well, happen in terms of how things typically operate in a school. But what was different and now is highly visible, especially in the context of phone bans and all of that kind of thing, the communication to parents has come under significant scrutiny, right? Because I think it's fair, if we want to take responsibility for having cell phones be taken from students, we should take the responsibility for communicating to parents in a more timely fashion. Right? I think that is reasonable. And in some ways, that did not happen with this incident. I think on our end, certainly in our schools, in our two schools, we definitely communicated with parents both when the sheltering happened and right after. I think part of the issue that principals have gone through is this idea that you need to wait for our legal department to sign off on any communication that you have to parents. I think our position is, and certainly mine is, that, you know, these things that happen as part of that we can actually plan for, we shouldn't necessarily need to wait for legal to sign off on the shelter in has been lifted, or the shelter in, or we are in shelter in, all of your students are safe, or anything like that. So we now have heard from the chancellor and from in Central DOE that kind of communication is paramount, and we do not necessarily need to wait for legal sign off in those situations. And on top of that, we have a system called Gamma, which is our messaging system in the DOE, and that system has been preloaded with communications that has been vetted by legal. So all of our schools have access, and all of our schools in the future will be able to communicate with in real time without waiting for legal sign off in that way. So I'm excited about that. I mean, again, I think that was really for the principals on the Brandeis campus. We kind of did communicate with parents in real time, but I think it's good for us to start thinking about broadly as a system and as a district, how we communicate and the delay or the timely communication to parents in those situations. So just wanted to kind of raise that here as something that is super timely and happening. A couple of other things. We are on the road in implementing New York City Reads, being implemented in our schools with our new literacy curriculum, Wit and Wisdom, in all of our schools. And in the middle schools, our principals are looking at EL for the most, EL across all of our middle schools, unless it's a K-8, they might continue with Wit and Wisdom. As Sharon said, and I know she's very passionate about the math engagement. So last year we engaged on literacy the entire year in our district, and then we now have shifted to the implementation of that came from that engagement. Next year we hope to be, so this year we hope to be engaging on math, and then next year being involved in an implementation of math. And one of the things we're trying to do is to do a screening of a documentary called Count It Out. We are in conversations with the creators of the documentary to have a screening in our district in the next month or two. But this month, or sorry, in October today, I think some of the folks here were at the Chancellor's State of the School address. And in October, we're gonna do our State of the District address. And so stay tuned for that. It's gonna be the first one that I did. I used to do these before in my old district. In my old district, the first one was supposed to be on March 10th, 2020. And so it never happened. And so now we're kind of, I'm getting back to that. So look out for that. It's going to be on the 29th of October. And on the 30th of October, we will be at the PEP, hopefully. We will be presenting our Harlem proposals, which we've worked on since June 2023. We started to think about what these proposals now have become. They are as a result of work we did in our Harlem working group. I've worked on probably 25 of these type proposals in my career. This is by far the most extensive and by far the most, has the most, what we say in sports, upside, right? It has the most, it has a huge opportunity just to benefit so many students in Harlem. And, you know, essentially, you know, we'll be having significant conversations about that, including what Caitlin is going to present. So I'm going to leave some of that for that conversation when you come. All right. So as you know, a lot of our test scores came out, and we just wanted to kind of run through some of how our district is doing. We are at about 63%, 64% proficiency in ELA. And that puts us third in the city comparing to other districts. We have, you know, as you see here, for those of you who are watching online, overall 64% for students with disabilities, down 2 points from 37%, and also our overall is down 4 points in ELA from 2023. And then our students with an economic disadvantage are at 38%. Our current Ls are at 11%, and for our students who have ever been Ls are at 70% proficiency. And as you can see there, students who were Ls and then or not Ls still outpace students who were never else before, right? So that's something we continue to see. We have some glitches here data-wise with our Asian numbers, but if you look at, so we're working to kind of figure that out. But in terms of our Black achievement by race, for Black students, we're at 36%. For Hispanic students, we're at 45%. Native American, 46%, and white students were at 86%. So you see a significant gap. We continue to see some significant gaps. Now, you know, there overall in ELA, we went down 4%. There are some schools that, you know, continue to show some increases. I see 452, 241, 185, schools that have shown increase. 84 had a significant drop in scores, and we're all gonna, and it's came basically from their 8th and their 3rd grade, and so we were taking like closer looks to see why that is. For our middle school, for middle schools, you know, by and large in ELA, compared to the year before, we saw decreases, and we're still kind of trying to really parse through that data, and I'll talk about maybe some other things that we've noticed in the next slides. In terms of our K-8 schools, you know, we've seen significant increases in, you know, I know it doesn't, in PS76 had a nice, so continues to trend upwards. 180 continues to trend upwards, and SMS, and as well as the Anderson School maintained high levels, and then we saw a little bit of a dip in schools like 191 and 333. And so on our math scores, right? I did say we were 3rd in ELA. We're 5th in math, so it's a good thing we're about to focus on math. In the city, we're at about, again, 64%, or a little bit 65%. And with students with disabilities, we're at 40%. And students with economic disadvantage, we're at 42%. And then our current Ls, we're at 24%, and then our ever Ls, again, you can see they outpace the overall, which is 78%. Of course, overall, we increased in math proficiency by 3%, right? So we're making progress in math. Maybe not as fast as we want, but we're making progress in that. And then as you take a look at this, our across all demographics, we've shown increases in math. And then across a lot of our schools, in elementary school, we saw significant increases in math scores, maybe 241, a little bit of a decrease, 185, a little bit of a decrease, but most of our schools showed significant improvement in math. In particular, PS75 had a strong increase. And for our middle schools, something similar. Our schools showed significant increases in math. 256, we saw a little bit of a decrease, and then also in 862, but by and large, most of our schools did well, increased in math. I think there was like a really significant increase at 421 West Prep here, so that was pretty strong, despite everything that was going on. One really, strong piece of the data here, it's a percentage increase. When you have low enrollment, you tend to you can have strong swings, but 76 did show significant increases, especially on their 8th grade and 5th grade. And then the rest of our K through 8s, except for 191, also showed increase. I think some of the things that we've seen, right? Overall, what does this really mean? Some of the interesting things we've seen in the data is that, you know, we had increases in math proficiency rate in all grades except for 3rd grade and 8th grade. So we'll take a look at that. The proficiency rate for economically disadvantaged middle school students have doubled in the 3 years since returning from the pandemic. I think that's really significant. And the 4th smallest district-wide percentage of students scoring level 1 in ELA. That's really strong. And then the 8th largest increase in the percentage of students scoring level 1 in ELA since 2018, which I think is something we should be looking at. We should really look at it. If we look at the final bullet here, there's a 25% increase in level 1 scores in our district for current Ls from 2023 to 2024, which reflects our increase in New Yorkers. Now, I think this is really, really important. We've done a lot of good work with open arms in our district. We've had, you know, coat drives and all of our food drives. All of that was great. But now our kids are in school and they've settled in school, many of them, and we need to make sure that we're accelerating their academic experience. We need to make sure that they are on that ever L category of students outperforming students who were never Ls. And so that's why we have a huge focus on that around foundational literacy in our district, as well as trying to get to transdisciplinary experience so that they can build a context of where to put their learning. So I think I'm gonna stop that. I think something that we're really excited to work on, but something that everyone should know, no matter what we're doing in our schools, it won't work unless kids are showing up, right? Since the pandemic, we've seen an increase in chronic absenteeism across all demographics, all income areas, all races, right? The one thing folks have in common is that they're coming to school fewer days than they did prior to the pandemic, right? And I think that's something that we're really looking at. Our chronic absenteeism rate last year was at 37%, which was down 2 points. And we have to, and our goal is to get down to 30% this year. We have to continue to decrease that number. Chronically absent means you are absent for more than 18 days or 10% of the total days of the school year. How many people here were absent? Like, raise your hand if you've been absent, or if you're on Zoom, put up a hand if you were absent. How many if you were absent 18 days in any school year? Raise your hand right here. 18 days in any school year when you were growing up. Let's check out Zoom, see if anybody, yeah, exactly, right? This is a serious issue that we're facing because we won't be able to get to where we need to get to with our students if we're not in school. And I want and I need the partnership of our CEC. When you're thinking about your subcommittees, when you're thinking about things you want to work on, if we can try to partner on some of the strategies around chronic absenteeism and make sure that that's out to our parents, I think that would be really, really helpful. Do you want to talk about this? The year-to-date attendance?
Sure. So we can share preliminary data on just how this school year is going, because I think starting off at the beginning of the year is a great time. Everything still seems, I think, super manageable. When you're thinking about the fact that we've had 5, 6, 7, 8, today's the 9th day of school. So this is where the schools are starting off right now. So this is just some data here. Oh, do you want me to go back, Sharon? So these are some K-5 schools. So you can see that, you know, there are still some schools that are still in the 70% range. And obviously there's only been 9 days of school, but there have also only been 9 days of school, right? So there's two ways that you can kind of look at it. And this is really the time where I think everyone, you know, I would say schools, students, families can really start thinking about, in the first 9 days of school, why have there already been so many absences? Once we get to, you know, the cold weather, we can start saying it's cold. Once we start getting into January, we start saying it's dark early. But I think that now is a really great time for all of us to kind of interrogate and look at this data. So this is some of the data for the K-8s.
And like I was saying, shouldn't everybody be excited about school right now? People should be going to school. Like, what's going on? Okay, so we've got to figure that out. Some of it is probably driven by students who moved out of the city and they're showing up as no-shows on our list. But still, even with that, we have kids who've shown up and have been absent already, right?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yeah, so this is just some quick data that I pulled yesterday. So probably only indicating the past 7 days of school, but it's the number of kids who have already been absent for 2 or more days. The technical term in the New Visions portal is from recent days. So I'm guessing it's probably from 5 days plus the first 2. So out of 7 days, there are already about over 690 students who have missed 2 or more days in our district. I think I calculated that it was something like 5%. So one of the things that we're doing on this attendance push is really saying, okay, so who are these kids who have already missed 2 or more days in the first 7 days? Because there's still time to kind of turn around the trend, right? There's still time to kind of address it. Attendance really, once you start going down a downward slide, it's really hard to start turning it around. It's really hard to tell a kid who's missed some days of school, like, no, really, you should come back, right? Like, a lot of the social dynamics of school have already been formed after the first month or so of school. So I would say that now it really is a critical time for all of us to kind of do the outreach and do the work to make that push. As Kamar says, you know, like, school is like the cool place to be right now if you're not in school.
Yeah, I have to add something to this because it's like nuts to me on some levels. So this is right now, every school in our district is on this list. It's not like we're saying, oh, there's, you know, some schools that this is not happening in, or every school, right? It's a major issue. Now, I will say that we're going to face a problem. For example, I can already tell you, December 23rd is a Monday, and then we're off for the holidays, right? And we're in school, supposedly, we should be in school on that Monday. Now, personal experience, I just looked up tickets, and the cost of traveling that Friday or Saturday before is way cheaper than traveling on the 23rd, right? I'm the superintendent, so there's no way I'm taking my kids out of school on the 23rd. But I understand that, you know, other people don't have that kind of pressure. I'm just saying, I need you all to say to folks, like, they should be in school. But I know what I'm up against in a day like that. Now, if we are already seeing these absences, those days, instead of being the days that you could take to kind of, you know, it's like we used to call mental health days or whatever. That's just going to be another day you're missing school and making the situation worse. So I really want, you know, when you go back to your schools, you should really be talking about your attendance data and the chronic absenteeism. Right.
No, I was just saying that this, you know, Kamar can share this information, but it is in response to the meeting in August where there was some request for some information about the budget and, you know, the $1.5 million per year grant over the next 5 years. That this is just some of the spending.
Yeah, it sounds way better when you say $7.5 million over 5 years. No, but so we want to make sure that everyone knows that this is a serious grant that is really pushing our presence in schools. So we want to know when you visit your schools and you see these things, you know that this is the district footprint, right? Number one, robotics in every single one of our schools. They have the equipment. They're a part of New York City First. That is being funded by the district. For one, and our vision as a district is that long-term, robotics is not something that happens outside of your regular classroom. Robotics is going to be integrated in the classroom in the same way that we don't need computer labs anymore, because computers should be integrated as a part of your instruction. We are trying to move towards where we have robotics integrated into an elementary school student's experience, everything through their teacher, because their teacher has been trained to do this work. So we spent over almost $700,000 on robotics. Okay. Yeah.
No, I was just, this goes along with what you're saying.
Yeah, $700,000 on robotics. A lot of it is like in equipment that the school needs to get, as well as the professional learning and so on. You want to add anything else?
I'll just add that today was the kickoff. So we had a district-wide meeting with, 29 robotics coordinators across all schools. And part of this breakdown is that all students in grades 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is roughly 4,400 students in our district, will have access to a robotics program this year.
Yeah, you can go back to it. You want to do LNN or you want to go? So we want to do, so one of the things that we've heard when I got here was this idea of trying to expand language access. And so for students who, for example, at PS 84, if you're not in a dual language program, then you don't get any exposure to a language, right? So the idea is to ensure that those students who are not in those programs get access to language. And we have partnered with an organization called LLN, Language Learning Network, or Learning Language Network. And so we were spending over about $115,000 with them across 3 schools. And I think more this year to get teachers into those classrooms to teach an additional language. We have a huge investment in the International Baccalaureate work. And we have expanded the number of schools that are along that journey. And I think we're up to 10 schools. Well, this looks like 11 schools, right? 1, 2,
10
3.
plus 2.
Yeah. So, and then 242 was always a part of it. Our math coaching, which is a kind of precursor to, before we got to Math Counts the City did it, we were kind of already on that path, and all of our schools have math coaching that comes from the district, and they get a number of days that they can get a coach for.
They get 10 days, and there are different math consultants. And so the cost is roughly between $1,300 to $2,000 a day. So it's roughly $13,000 to $20,000 a school.
Yeah, and we only have about 3 consultants. We have Southern Cross, Teaching Matters, and Bank Street, right? So one of the things we were trying to do is to limit the number of vendors that we were using in this space. So there's this new tool called Toddle, and Toddle it has an AI component that helps teachers as they're writing curriculum, right? And so it's really heavy in IB schools, and so in order to accelerate that work, think about a teacher. Right? One of the things that I believe in transdisciplinary experiences. I don't think any of us go to work or is in a situation where like you don't think now is the time I'm going to apply my math skills, or now is the time I'm going to do reading. Like all of those things work together as skills that you have, and we need to put kids in those experiences that call for a transdisciplinary journey. So the Toddle allows teachers to take curriculum or curriculum materials and actually create transdisciplinary experiences from those materials. So we're excited about the use, and we're spending $70,000 or so on that.
All right, the next slides are a little bit more in detail about IB.
Each of the about IB. Oh, right. So
I can say.
Yeah, you can talk.
So it is $10,000 per program in a school. So a school like 84 just has primary years program. So 10,000 of the cost here is like the fee of participation. It's the authorization fee. A school like 333 or 180 that is a K-8 pays both the middle years program and the primary years program. So roughly 120,000 to goes to the IB as part of like the authorization process. The rest of the cost is really per training. It's not really per teacher at the training. I think it's really just per the training. So what we included in here.
Per training with a minimum.
With a minimum
of
number.
Participants, yep.
So there's some data here about the number of teachers so far trained at each of these schools. I don't know if you want to say more about the training.
Yeah, you know, look, teaching is an intellectual exercise. I think a lot of times we tend to say, you know, you need this box curriculum or you need this thing. I think what these trainings do, it brings teachers together to really create and look at the resources that they have and resources that they can get to create really strong cross-curricular experiences, interdisciplinary experiences for students. And then also the IB has their learner profile that, you know, talks about what kind of learner are you reflective and so on. And it kind of helps teachers to figure out the IB model. And so we're heavily invested in it and working on it.
And the final slide is just alluding to what Sharon had mentioned early about the D3 Math Council. That really is a collaboration between the CEC and the district. And so I'll drop the Google form in the chat after I stop sharing my screen. We have about 10 to 15 people already signed up. Most of them are parents. We would, you know, we're also making an outreach to school teacher. We have a couple of teachers and we would like a couple school principals or assistant principals to also join. And again, part of it is just to really talk more about math, to do more math, to really, you know, we'll do the curriculum piece, you know, probably in a slightly different way than how we did literacy, because I do think that one of like the biggest hurdles around math is just really kind of being comfortable with it. I think that we could do a lot of dancing around math. But I think that we really want to do math and really talk about what it means to be successful in math. So
Yeah.
I'll put that in the chat in a second.
That's great. I always find it phenomenal how much, or not phenomenal, I need another word. It's like I always am mortified, I should say, by how easy it is for people to say, oh, I'm just not that good at math. I've never been good at math. Oh, math sucks, right? Nobody goes, I can't read. I've never been able to figure, it's just become so comfortable that there are math people and there are people who are not math people. And I think we're really going to be pushing against that in our district. All right, so I think that's it for us. You know, I'm always going to be around for questions. I don't know if you want to go to Caitlin and then come back to me for questions, however you want.
I think we'll do questions.
Okay, great. Anyone who has any?
First, I want to open up to CEC3 members. Any questions for our superintendent or deputy superintendent?
So it's a couple of questions. Hello.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Sharon, and I just want to shout out to the beautiful building we're sitting in. This is our first meeting in the new West Prep Academy, and I encourage everybody to add it to your list when you're looking at middle schools, because it's really a beautiful building and a special place. I had a couple of quick questions. A lot of, and you've addressed this in the past, and maybe this is for a future meeting, but with your push for these IB programs in elementary schools, most of us, if we've ever heard of IB, have heard of it in high schools. So what exactly does being an IB school mean for a K-5 or K-8, and why is it worth the investment to do that? That's my first question.
Yeah, and we can get deeper into it into future meetings, as you said, but I want to just give give a little bit of context. I think what's important to me in the context of changing the student experience in a school is that we are no longer and should no longer be in silos. Like, this is your reading time, this is your math time, this is your science time, this is your, I think our experiences for kids should be designed around big ideas and big problems that we're facing, and how we use the different disciplines in the process of solving those problems, or in the process of learning about these big ideas, right? And I think that we have examples already of how this is happening, but even thinking about how students look at the world and look at the issues that we're having. One of the big examples that I've used in this was when students decided to think about climate justice, right? And think about so climate justice being a big idea or a big issue that we're facing. And so they started thinking of, so in a math application, thinking about the percentage of the streets that, you know, bike lanes take up, right? That's a context. That's something that's important within that context. You walk out, you see bike lanes, you like, why don't we have more? Why don't we, like, I think then kids learn the reason they're learning math. I mean, so many of us became, you know, pseudoscientists during COVID, right? Because we had to read about how things work. We had to, like, so within, if we don't have the context, then only kids or only the students for whom their brains are wired to exist within the traditional context, only those students will survive, will do well. I think I think if we make it so that we are explaining the why and we have the strong context, and that's how the vast majority of us learn. Actually, all of us learn better that way, right? And so if you're asking why IB, I think why IB gives us as a district platform or context in which to do that and accelerate that. Just another part. So that's K through 5, right? And also middle school, because middle school is more interdisciplinary. Now, for our high school, which it's all connected, because you're bringing me to the conversation about the proposal, right? The Harlem proposal. The Harlem proposal is to make Mott Hall an IB school, an IB 6 through 12 school, so that we are having a diploma, an IB diploma end, or an IB, what they call a career readiness diploma, right? So the idea is to not just do the K through 5 or 6 to 8, but to actually prepare students for that trajectory all the way to the end. Sorry, I know that's a long answer to your question, but we'll get more into that in future years.
I think I'd like to understand what you get for your money. I don't know.
The vast majority.
Is it curriculum?
No, and actually that's what we're trying to get away from, is curriculum. We don't want, teachers should be, what it gets you is the training of, the vast majority of money is going towards the training of teachers to think about curriculum as a tool rather than the end, right? So it's a tool for us to use to create transdisciplinary experiences rather than just to do a science curriculum or do an ELA curriculum.
To help us understand, would you be able to bring a teacher with using TOEFL into a meeting so we can see
Eventually we can
how
do
do
that.
you make how do you use AI for curriculum
100%.
writing?
We'll do that.
I'm curious to see what the money goes for.
Or you can, I mean, but to be clear, you know, this, you know, it's funny. I was talking to a superintendent friend of mine today, and he was like, you know, the chancellor should really give us more money, put more money in superintendent's budget. The typical budget has about, superintendent's budget, believe it or not, has about $40,000 in it from the city. This was, we applied for this federal grant as a result of, you know, just Maya, myself, a couple of people on the teams, that's hard work in the summer. And we wrote into the grant these ideas, right? So that's where
So
that
these
comes from.
initiatives are all not,
Yeah,
they're unique to our district because our
right,
district,
because
there's two others in the country
yes,
received these.
that's right,
this grant.
that's right. And there are other folks that are, you know, IB is traditionally something that's been overseas in international schools and many other private schools. I mean, we're part of a movement bringing this work to public schools.
So Mount Hollow would be like Clinton. Has-
Correct.
Okay.
That's a good comparison. Mhm. And also, I think for that proposal, which we might talk, like for me, it was trying to, for my district, bring a 6 through 12 to Harlem in the same way that we have Western Secondary in the South.
No more questions. I know we have a packed agenda, but thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Next team.
Noah was the first, right? Noah, you want to go?
I can't
go
hear
ahead?
her. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Noah, you were the first. Do you want to go first?
I don't care, whatever's easiest.
Okay. Okay.
You want to go, why don't you ask your question, Zing? It's fine.
Okay. My question is, I want to thank Kamar and Mariella and your team for pushing the STEM education in an integrated way. And my question is, it's very heartening. My question is, how would you offer the PD to teachers? And can some of the PDs open up to parent representatives, such as the robotics integration and Toddle AI?
We're not there with Toddle yet, but Mariela, you can talk a little bit about like New York's first.
To open it up for parents.
Well,
first is the PD.
Yeah.
Second is a possible space for
Yeah,
parents
the PD
to
for
get to know
teachers.
the integration.
So what teachers are receiving, so today was the kickoff for this year's robotics program. Last year, we had 16 schools participating in robotics, and this year we added the other 13 schools and also made sure that we had materials for all of the schools to be able to have the program in all of their classes, grades 4 through 7. So part of that was that last year, for example, we underestimated the number of robotics kits that each school would need. So if I were in the robotics class second period, by the end of the period, I might have to take apart this robot piece because third period was coming in and they needed to use the same materials. So you saw that a large part of the investment was to make sure that whatever students started building in second period, the next day, the second period robots, you know, partially built are still the same ones that those students get to use. The PD for teachers, a lot of it is about is specific. So Lego Robotics is the brand of like the Lego kits, right? NYC First is part of a national program called First, which really is aligned to the transdisciplinary learning piece. So it's not meant to be like necessarily like a separate elective that is teaching coding and building robots, but it really is built along this piece of like, how do we use robotics to help solve world issues, to address different concerns, to have students kind of build that curiosity. So this year's theme is, I think it's called like underwater or it's something related to the sea. And the challenge project of it really is to think about how environmental issues are affecting the ocean. So students are building robots, they're going through a challenge course, but each of these pieces along the challenge course really are related to like a much more interdisciplinary issue around climate change and what is the effect on the ocean and on natural waters. So that is kind of the piece of the PD that teachers are receiving. It's once a month for the robotics coordinators. The idea is that they are kind of working with the teachers in their school. The other part of the PD the teachers are receiving is access to go to the robotics. There are these different sites. What were they? There's one on Roosevelt Island. There's one in Washington Heights that NYC First has, where students can go take a trip and they can kind of learn more about the application and go a little bit deeper into the robotics piece. It's also just kind of fun to get out of the school building, kind of work with students in other schools and kind of see a different piece. And to the parent part, I would say that we're not there yet. but we did do something with the President's Council last year, just to give them a taste of what this looks like. It is kind of hard to explain if you're not there seeing the whole field of what NYC First's challenge looks like. But I think by mid-year, so this is what I'll say, by mid-year, every school, I would say like maybe by January, if you were to visit your child's school, you would be able to see evidence of what this looks like, of how it's progressing. And last year we did the STEM Expo at the end of the year, and there were some Lego robotic stations. This year, the goal is that there will be a lot more.
Yeah, and there's also an event at the Armory that NYC First does. But I think for us, we're definitely thinking about parents. Actually, the person who heads up NYC First is a District 3 parents, and we've actually begun talking about like how could we get this work. How could we get parents involved? And so listen up for more on that. We're focused on our teachers and our students now, and then we have to lift it to our parents next.
Noah, you're next.
I just have a quick question going back to IB. So when teachers get the IB training, does that make them like, should they then want to transfer schools and make them more competitive to like in the teacher job market?
Oh, geez, Noah, yes. We hope that they stay in District 3, but that's certainly something that they can put on their resume to go to I mean, some of them are private schools and so on. Doesn't prevent us from investing in our teachers, though.
I have a few questions. Of course.
Not that we don't meet every weekend.
So my first question, has the math curriculum been chosen for D3 schools?
No.
Is that not going to be part of the conversation then for the math council meetings that are happening monthly, like happen for the literacy curriculum?
Because the engagement for the choice of the curriculum will probably happen outside. It doesn't mean the engagement won't happen, but it will happen like possibly adjacent to that. But it will also be included in I think Mariela's meant it won't be the full focal point of the Math Council. It'll be included in the Math Council, but we'll also have other engagement activities outside of the Math.
So IB schools use that same like literacy and math curriculum, right?
That's right.
Okay. So what if I'm a parent deciding whether what school I want my child to go to? What makes the IB school different or better?
Yeah. Oof. Well, first of all, I would say what makes them different doesn't mean it's gonna always be better, right? What we're focused on in an IB school is that we are focused on finding opportunities. The great thing about DOE right now, NYCPS, is that in every different content area, we have DOE approved and vetted curriculum. Right? That was not always the case. Wasn't always the case when I was a teacher, and wasn't so when I was a principal. But that is the truth now. So social studies, science, ELA, and hopefully math soon. We have curriculum that is DOE signs off on. The goal of an IB school would be to see the opportunities across that curriculum. Across those curriculum to create a transdisciplinary experience, right? Many times, math is kept out of it first, so that they can have a distinct and discrete math period, and then as they go forward, they try to include math in, right? Because math is harder for people to kind of get into that transition. There are two things that stay out. For now, it's going to be phonics, right? We're going to do phonics as a distinct period all the time, and then we're thinking about for folks that are learning and are moving towards that, we're going to have a distinct math period. So all of when we decide on a curriculum, your student will be experiencing math in that curriculum no matter where they are. Now, for the others, Amplify, Passport, and wisdom, there are opportunities to look at. Here is a good time to teach ecosystems and the sea as it relates, because you're doing that story or those units in wit and wisdom. So you can move that around, I say, from a science unit to match it up more appropriately, or to match it up cross curriculum. So it's not disjointed. That's what the IB schools are going to do.
And I know for the slides you shared about the grant, the 7.5 million over 5 years, there wasn't a total number for IB. What is that?
Yeah, because
Is that on the slide?
Yeah, we do, right? I thought I saw it.
Well, so I would say the reason there isn't a number, and I kind of told you how much the authorization fee is, and each training, how much is each training? It depends, but I guess the part of it is that some of the work that started last year was actually covered by the state integration grant, and not necessarily by this grant. And so we're kind of looking across a couple of different funding sources and two different
Yes.
Yeah, so 120,000 is the authorization fee across, well, no, it's 10,000 per school, plus 2 schools are K-8, so that's 20,000 for 180 and 333. And then the trainings.
It's like $400 per teacher.
Is it?
Something like that. Mm-hmm.
400 per teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
And also, it's so part of it is like it's a rolling number, right? So we haven't trained everybody yet. We're gonna be so I think we can also come back to that and be like, all right, so here is the overall where we are with the spending on IP. That's not a problem at all.
And so we have a big push in D3, obviously, for IB schools. Is part of that push to address gaps, right? That we talked about our students, like, is it what you're saying, the transdisciplinary learning, or like, what's the big push for all these IB schools?
So I think the big push is a general understanding and high expectation of rigor. What people see as, what people think about as rigor is often more of the same problems, or I think when I think about rigor, I'm thinking about, is a student really critically thinking about problems in the world? And I think this is what that is, to change the experience and have our kids thinking differently, have our teachers thinking differently, more about applying what they've learned to like really big problems. So I think it's and I think that gets you to inspiration and why you're learning to begin with, and will get you to why you have those gaps to begin with, because a lot of our kids there are these gaps that you say exist because they're disconnected from school and disconnected from the learning, and they don't know why they're learning what they're learning. And so this is a huge push to make sure that more of our students are connected in this way.
So 242 has always been an IB school for a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
So-
know for how long before I got.
Yeah. So we look at their data, right, that was shared. And their math and ELA proficiency are still below 50%. So that goal of rigor, is that really going to happen without maybe some other changes in the school?
That's a fantastic question. And I would say no, IB is not a silver bullet, right? But what it is, so you talk about the changes that need to be made in a school. 242 has a dramatic enrollment problem, right? As many of our schools in Harlem do. When you look at all of our work, what we know is when you have the highest concentration of students of needs in the same school, you almost can't fund that school enough within the constraints of DOE funding to get to where you need to get to. So what you need to do is structural adjustments to create a robust school where you have enough teachers that can do an IB model. That means that they can collaborate across the curriculum. Because if you only have one teacher on a grade, if you only have a few students, that robustness, IB can't solve that. So what needs to happen in that situation is more like a structural change, right? So that will allow either through that would allow the students, the school to get more students, more teachers, so that you can see, so that kind of work can take hold.
And exactly, like Kumar brought me to my last question, right? IB is not a magic bullet, like you're saying. So what?
So I didn't say it was a magic bullet.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We
Oh,
agree.
okay, got it, okay.
So what else is CEC3 planning to do to address those gaps that you talked about for our SWG population, our Ls? Looking at the ethnic breakdown, like what are other things besides transforming
Of course,
schools to IB?
in every, for example, in I think what you're getting at, if I'm hearing you correctly, is kind of, there are two ways to approach what you're calling gaps, right? So it's like, one that we just talked about is a kind of reframing and rethinking about the experience to really get to more inspiration and more context and building out background knowledge for kids. The other piece is when we have to have small group, for example, tutoring or high dosage tutoring, which all of our Harlem schools this year are involved in high dosage tutoring on the lower grades, as well as more in the upper grades as well. So all of our students are getting significant additional time. And also, I think we're really working on intervention in the school day. So if you look at a school like 421, one of the things that you probably saw when you came here is that they have like a strategic reading period where students are getting exactly what they need and the interventions that they need. We have a huge investment in rewards throughout our district, especially on the middle school level. We're doing what kids need is direct phonics, explicit instruction. So we're doing a lot of that, which is a big part of New York City Reads. So we have both a comprehensive model to look at intervention, and we also have another model to look at the core instruction. And I think IB addresses the core instruction as well as our New York City Reads curriculum work.
Thank you. Thank you, Kumar.
Let's go to Noah. Return to Noah.
Did you want to?
I just want to go with,
Before we open up questions to the public, and I know there was at least one or two in the chat, our student member would like to make a comment. She has to leave early tonight, so we want to give her the opportunity to do so, Alina.
First of all, give it up for the student member. Come on, guys.
Can everyone hear me okay?
yes. Fine, I could hear you fine.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm super happy to be here at my first in-person meeting as the new student rep. For those of you who don't know, my name is Felina Zhang, and I'm a senior at Special Music School on 67th Street, right across from Lincoln Center. I just wanted to talk briefly about the new CEC3 Committee on School Lunches that I'll be chairing this year, with the aim of advocating for improvements to the quality of school lunches and also advocating for more food education in schools, particularly in getting kids to think about eating healthy. I know that there have been a number of recent developments from the DOE that I've read and heard about surrounding school lunches in terms of massive cafeteria renovations across the city, plant-based lunch meals, and I think there was an inaugural Chef's Council that was launched 2 years ago. But from my student perspective, I think none of the latest buzz around longevity research, healthy eating, and sustainable food practices have really come to my attention through schools. And I think we all deserve to be very conscious of these things as young people, not only for our lifespan down the line, but also for our present health and lifestyle as teenagers.
And I know at the very least at my school, people generally have many complaints about the cafeteria lunch offerings. So on top of bringing more food awareness to school settings, I'd like to advocate for specific improvements to our daily lunches regarding a greater diversity of fruit and vegetable offerings, for example. There will be information coming very soon about the first committee meeting, for which I've already planned to gather some students, families, CEC3 members, and possibly some guest speakers as the first step of this initiative. So I'd like to invite everyone to join the school lunch committee, and thank you all for your time.
Just about the tests, but welcome, I didn't get to meet you. So what % of students at each school took the test? Was it up or down? Do you have that breakdown? I didn't know, because I was setting up my computer. I might have missed some of it.
I don't have it in front of me. I can actually try to find it.
And are you going to share those? Can you share the
slides?
data?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Out to the public, I know there was a question I saw before in the chat. Laura, do you have access to?
Yeah, I do, but I didn't see anything.
Do you want me to read it out loud, the question? The question is, are D3 schools currently aligning to UFT policy regarding sets instruction? UFT policy says for a student to qualify for sets, they must have a minimum of 4 sessions per week. Students with sets and for math and ELA would then be looking at a minimum of 8 set sessions per week in addition to related services. How will this impact their ability to participate in instructional time
in academic or subject areas?
Yeah, I think for our sets, well, for all special education recommendations, we are driven by the IEP. When it comes specifically to sets in schools, I'll have to take a look at what the IEPs say and where we are in that. But overall, I think that's something that we would want to strive for. But I'd have to take a look.
Did that answer your question, or do you want to?
I know that was a long question. I'm sorry about that. So I'm a member of the CCSE, and I'm actually in District 2, where my son is, but I am a temporary guardian of a student in a middle school in CEC3 or District 3. And this just came to my attention this afternoon that there are schools in District 2 that I know of who are implementing or in a sudden alignment with the UFT policy on sets instruction. So the problem is if you get sets for ELA or math a couple of times a week, right? 2 sessions on your IEP, you no longer get that unless you max out at 4 sessions, or you have to meet a minimum of 4 sets instruction periods per week, or you don't get sets. And so if you have math and ELA sets twice a week, that's already 4 pullouts. What will a student do when they all of a sudden have 8 pullout sessions of sets plus OT, PT, counseling, and speech? It's a problem that's going to cause a lot of instructional time to be lost in core academic areas. And so I feel like parents are going to be pushed to either let go of some services to accommodate the 4 session minimum, or they will, like I did today, drop the sets instruction because there's no way that, my son can do 4 times a week in addition to 5 other services that he receives. So I just wanted to know if you were seeing this in District 3 and just kind of get the pulse. So that's why I came here tonight. Thanks.
Sorry, yes, my computer froze for a second. I will say no, we haven't. can I paraphrase her question? Yeah, so I think she's basically saying there are some schools that there's a UFT recommendation that you give students that it could get up to like 8 periods or a lot of periods to be pulled out of class to get some kind of services. And what she's saying is you end up in that situation missing a lot of what happens in your class, a lot of core instruction. And so she's asking if I've seen that issue, and I haven't necessarily seen it in District 3. And I can, Tam, if you want, you can send me an email and I'll take a look.
Pam put something very important in the chat. It's state law, not just UFT regulation. Thank you. That's an important distinction.
That is right.
Yeah, that is true.
Any other questions for the public, for our superintendent or deputy superintendent?
Well, this young lady right here, right next to you, she is our family leadership coordinator. her name is Tracy McClare. She is the person that you can liaise with to get more information. Even if she doesn't have it, she'll find it for you, and we'll come to you if you want us to come to PTA at 199. We're happy to do that too. Yep, President's Council, yep. Yeah, and so Tracy just let him know you worked with the President's Council too, and so yeah. But this is the place to come and hear all of the inside baseball, if you wish, if you will.
Any other questions for anyone in the audience or on Zoom?
Did the person say she's not gonna get it?
Christina, are you able to share your screen? Christina, are you able to share your screen?
No.
I'm checking. No, she cannot share her screen. No. So why don't we just have you do it from your. Yeah. Can you make her a co-host? Okay. Oh, success. All right. Thanks, everyone. As I said earlier, my name is Caitlin. I'm here from the Office of District Planning, and I have a few of my colleagues who are joining virtually who I'll let introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Chan, and I'm part of the analytics team at the Office of District Planning, supporting Queens and Manhattan. And I'll pass it over to Jonathan Geis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Geis, the Senior Director of Analytics at the Office of District Planning. I've been already part of this process, and I'm excited to be here with you tonight. And passing it to Eric Herman.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. Director of Manhattan Planning. We've been working with the superintendent on these proposals and rezoning for some time now. Excited to keep it going.
Thanks, Eric. So we're here tonight to join you all to talk about a potential rezoning that might impact the District 3 portion of Harlem. We are going to reshare information that Superintendent Samuels alluded to about proposal set impacting some District 3 schools in Harlem. We're going to reshare information on zoning, rezoning in the A185 process. We're going to briefly reshare some data trends for District 3 elementary schools in Harlem to best inform planning needs. And then we're going to focus most of our time on two potential rezoning scenarios that we want you all to consider, as well as some maps, rationale, and supporting data. And then we're going to take some time to answer questions, collect feedback, and share next steps. But again, we're hoping to gauge your interest and if you have any preference on these two rezoning scenarios that we're going to present to you all. As Superintendent Samuels alluded to, since spring of 2023, the District 3 SUPS office and us have been engaging with schools and school communities across District 3 Harlem to discuss how to best support schools in District 3 Harlem and address specific community needs, specifically how to provide District 3 Harlem with a robust middle school option, and work to address some low enrollment at K-8 schools in District 3 Harlem. In order to work to address these needs, the District 3 SUPS office and us developed a set of proposals posted to the DOE's website last Friday in collaboration with school communities that will hopefully work to address these needs. Next slide, please. These proposals are a truncation of the middle school grades of PS 180, a resiting of elementary District 75 school, PS M226, from the MO 76 building to the M180 building, where it would be co-located with PS 180. And finally, the big proposal, a truncation of the elementary grades of PS 76, a resiting of Mott Hall 2 from across the street to the 76 building, and a merger with PS 76's middle school grades and Mott Hall 2, and then an expansion of that merged Mott Hall 2 to eventually serve grades 6 to 12. And those proposals would be voted on separately by the Panel for Educational Policy at their October 30th vote. If all these proposals are approved by the Panel for Educational Policy, beginning in September 2025, PS 180 would no longer serve middle school grades. They would only serve grades K through 5, as well as their 3K and pre-K programs. PS M226 wouldn't be in the 76 building anymore. They would be moved to the 180 building. They'd be co-located with PS 180, and the merged Mott Hall 2 would expand to serve grades 6 to 12 by adding 9th grade in the 25-26 school year. So there'd be grades 6 through 9, and they'd phase in that ninth grade, that high school grade, until they serve grade 6 to 12 in the 2028-2029 school year and beyond. So in building MO 76, it would just be a 6 to 12 school. There would be nothing else in that building. Next slide. Now I'm just gonna briefly go over some zoning definitions and the process. So a zone school is a school that gives priority to attend based on residence within a defined geographical area known as a zone. And students who reside in that area are entitled to a seat at that school. Next slide. Rezoning is a collaborative process where the areas of zones are changed or new zones are created as governed by a process called Chancellor's Regulation A185. Us, district planning, and the superintendent develop rezoning plans in partnership with the CEC and with school communities, and you all, the CEC, vote on rezoning proposals for your respective community school district. You can skip this slide. So now I'm going to talk about why we're here. And why we're here is because PEP approval of that proposal to truncate PS 76's elementary grades in the absence of a rezoning would leave students who reside in that elementary PS 76 zone without a zone. So we want to continue to work with you all. We want to continue to have conversations about a rezoning plan for students in grades K to 5 prior to the start of the 25-26 school year, if those proposals are approved by the panel for educational policy. So that's why we're here. We came in the spring and we're going to continue to come and engage with you all in the fall to work towards eventually a rezoning proposal is the goal. Next slide, please. Now my colleague Christina over Zoom is going to do a brief overview of District 3 Harlem School data trends to best inform planning needs.
Thank you, Caitlin. And so in the next few slides, I'll talk about some data about the landscape of District 3 Harlem Elementary Schools, and then go into some data about each of the two scenarios. So first, what we have up is a map of the District 3 Harlem area and the current elementary school zone lines. So there are 6 district schools that we have up here that serve elementary grades, each with its own zone. The red flag indicates that they serve only elementary school grades, and the yellow flag means that they also serve grades 6 to 8. The two schools that we have been talking about include PS 76, which is the school in the center here, and PS 180 on the top left.
Thanks. Let's just take a pause after this slide, if that's okay, Christina, because folks I handed out, there's some packets with these slides handed out, so I just want to make sure everybody has it. So right now we just finished slide 14, so we're going to slide 15 for anybody that wanted to use the handout. Okay, we're ready.
So first, we'll look at K-5 enrollment across the schools in District 3 Harlem. Total K-5 enrollment across all of those 6 schools decreased by 16%, from about 1,200 to 1,000 students over the past 5 years. Almost all schools experienced a decline in enrollments during the COVID years, but experienced a bump in enrollments in the past year. In the next 2 slides, we'll look at some zone data, starting with zone size. So to take a step back, a zone, as Caitlin mentioned earlier, is a defined geographical area where students who live in that defined area.
So sorry, would you mind
yes.
pausing?
Sure.
We're just having some trouble hearing you, Christina.
Oh,
I can hear.
The sound is good online. The sound is good online.
Ah, okay.
I can do it. Give me a mic.
Sorry, we're just trying to adjust the volume.
Do you need the sound? Cool.
I'm gonna mute this computer if that computer is muted, just so there's no feedback.
We want to hear, yeah, but we want to hear them. Let her go, Caitlin. Tell her to speak.
All right, Christina, back to you.
Okay, great, thank you. So to start over again, a zone is a defined geographical area where students who live in that zone have priority to attend that zone school. And when we talk about zone size, we're talking about the number of kindergarten students who live in that zone. So what we have up here is the number of kindergarten students who live in each of the 6 zones and how that has changed in the past 5 years. In the past 5 years, the number of kindergarten students has decreased by 26%, from 365 to 269 kindergarten residents. Next, we'll look at zone retention rates. So this is focused on the number of kindergarten residents who live in a zone and where they enroll. So across the 6 zones in District 3 Harlem, a small percentage of kindergartners are enrolling in their zone school. For example, in the top row, in the zone for PS 76, there are about 44 kindergarten residents, and 6 of them, or 14% of those kindergartners, enroll in their zone school at PS 76. So we just looked at zone retention, which is focused on kindergarten residents living in zones and where they enroll. And then in the next slide, we're going to shift to thinking about kindergarten students enrolled at a school and where they come from. So across the 6 schools in District 3 Harlem, we're seeing that a small percentage of students are coming from the school's zone. And so we're seeing that a lot of schools are enrolling students from outside of the zone. So the top row, for example, at PS 76, out of the 21 kindergarten students, 6 of them come from the zone. So that's about 28%. And then now I'm going to pass it back to Caitlin to share a little bit about the first scenario.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks, Christina.
All right, so now we spoke a little bit about an overview of some of the data in District 3 Harlem. Now we're going to pivot to talking about the 2 rezoning scenarios we'd like you guys to consider and we'd like to gauge your interest on. The first one is scenario A, combine the PS 76 current zone with the 180 zone adjacent. So this is, sorry, I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. I'm gonna try to adjust my. So this map shows what would happen. Is this one muted? Oh, okay. So this map on the left is the current District 3 Harlem zones. And if we move forward with rezoning scenario A, we would basically lift the line between the 2 zones on Frederick Douglass Boulevard. And the students currently living in the PS 76 zone, if you go into My Schools and you look up your zone school, you would see PS 180. So the 2 zones would be combined into 1. And there's a couple of reasons why this zone is beneficial. This rezoning would be beneficial. Proximity, 180 and 76 are less than half a mile from one another. We're already seeing some students who attend PS 180 who are part of the current 76 zone. So it in that way aligns somewhat with enrollment choices some families are making. It would create a larger and more sustainably sized zone and expand access to PS 180. And it would continue to provide one zone entitlement for students in the PS 76 zone. But some flags to consider for this scenario are, it doesn't provide families equal access to all schools in District 3 Harlem. It doesn't work to address all the zone sizes at the other District 3 Harlem schools that would continue to be small. And then, Christina, would it be helpful if I tried to, or let me see. So Christina's gonna present some zone data. Maybe, yeah. Sorry, we're gonna just get the microphone so that folks who don't have a laptop can hear you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Let me know when I should start.
Christina, we cannot hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm going to start. Let me know if you can hear me, or if you can't. So one of the first things that we considered when thinking about the scenario of combining the PS 76 and PS 180 zones is thinking about where do kindergarten students living in PS 76 zone enroll? Do they enroll in their zone schools or do they enroll elsewhere? And what we have seen is that a large share of students living in the 76 zone enroll in charter schools. A small percentage or only a handful of students enroll at their zone school at PS 76. And among the 6 schools in the District 3 Harlem area, if they're not enrolling their zone school, they're enrolling at PS 180. Next, we'll look at the impact on kindergarten zone size. So again, zone size is the number of kindergarten residents who live in the zone. So the zone for PS 76 and the zone for PS 180, they each have about 40-something kindergartners living in those zones. If we combine the PS 76 and PS 180 zones, we would project that their total zone size would be between 80 and 90, which would be a larger, more sustainable zone size. Next, we'll look at the impact of this scenario on school enrollment and building utilization. To take a step back, as Caitlin described earlier, one of the 3 proposals is to truncate the middle school grades of PS 180. They currently serve 3K to 8. If the proposal is approved, then PS 180 would serve 3K to 5. So they would not be serving grades 6 to 8. With that truncation and the combining of these 2 zones, we anticipate that PS 180 would still have space to accommodate all of its current zone students from PS 76 zone, and continue to have the capacity to serve students from outside of their zone. I'm going to pass it back to Caitlin now to talk a bit about our second scenario.
Thanks, Christina. So the other rezoning scenario that we could consider is to create a shared zone. So lifting all of the lines with the District 3 Harlem elementary schools to create one shared catchment area where students would have equal zone priority. So as you can see, this current map shows where the lines currently are for elementary schools in District 3 Harlem. And basically what would happen is you would go on My Schools if you're in any of the geographical area shown here, and it would show 180, 242, 149, 185, and 241. So you would have equal priority to all of those schools, and it would just be one shared area. Next slide. So there's a few good reasons to consider this scenario. It would provide families equal access to all schools in District 3 Harlem, which is what we're seeing now. We're seeing families who live in a District 3 elementary zone choose another school in District 3 Harlem. So we're seeing families in the 76 zone choose 180. We're seeing families in the 149 zone choose 241 and vice versa. We're seeing families exercise choice and choose different schools across District 3 Harlem. And so this would align with what we're already seeing now and historically what we've been seeing. And again, it would create a more sustainable, larger zone size, and it would impact all of those smaller zones in District 3 Harlem. And a potential flag to think about for this scenario is it would remove entitlement to one zone option, which would still remain for other parts of District 3. So I'm going to pass it back to Christina one last time to talk a little bit about the data side of this scenario.
Thank you. So first we'll look at what enrollment and capacity would look like across District 3 Harlem. The total capacity right now across K-5 seats is about 1,400 with about 1,000 K-5 students, resulting in a 71% utilization rate. If we remove the capacity of M076, then we would project their utilization to be 85%. And so even without the capacity of M076, District 3 Harlem schools will still have the capacity to accommodate students who are currently enrolled at PS 76. So in the next slide, we'll look at what utilization rates look like across the 6 schools in District 3 Harlem. So as we can see in the last column, in the table that we have up, the majority of schools that serve elementary school grades have a utilization rate well below 100%. And we don't anticipate with the shared zone for their utilization rates to really go up by much. And so we don't anticipate overcrowding to be a challenge in this scenario.
Thank you for the presentation. We want to open up for questions first from the CEC3 members. Yeah, starting with Pastor T.
Thank you for sharing. And I think that
Yeah, I was saying at an elementary school level, I don't think that's something that we would be looking at like a whole district wide, but certainly at the middle school level, we already have it. But I think there are other opportunities though at the elementary school level to look at other parts of our district, but not to go one big school.
I did also say that students are already exercising choice, and so this is really just memorialize what's part of the Constitution. And I want to add that us and those we
on this. Would one unified zone, but this would be something from parent engagement, which we'd love to hear from any parents affected by this at our next meeting. But would like one unified zone potentially make parents more likely to choose a charter school because they're thinking, well, I don't have a zone school anyway? And does it like put a lot of onus on the parents? Be like, wow, I used to just go to my zone school. Now I have to research these 4 or 5 different schools, because even though because of enrollment, they already could have chosen to enroll their child in any of them, it feels like all of a sudden there's like an onus on the parents to research 4 different elementary schools, which not everybody may have the time to do. So what would be the outreach? I guess this is reflecting John's question in the chat, to Harlem families to help them really understand that they have an array of options. Would there be like tour days for them to look at each school so they would say, oh, I like this about this school? Or
Yeah, I can address that. All right, so as the presentation kind of showed, there is a lot of fluidity right now within our Harlem schools, right? So parents choose whichever school in Harlem they want to go to today, and they are welcome to go to whatever school they want to go to today because the enrollment allows that level of fluidity. Parents are choosing, by and large, many parents are choosing to leave Harlem to go to school, right? So they're doing the research that you're talking about already. They're not just researching the 5 schools in Harlem. They're looking at schools outside of Harlem. They're looking at charter schools. They're looking at various schools. So that's already, we see that trend already happening. For the folks who feel like I'll say there's 2 schools in District 3 Harlem right now where the families could feel, wait, I have I'm zoned to 185, I'm zoned to 180, and now you're taking away that zone option from me, because those are our bigger schools of the 3. The thing to know though is that there is enough space in both of those schools to take on more kids, where the person currently living across the street from 180 with a pre-K kid, or 185 with a pre-K kid who wants to go there, would be able to not go there, right? That will always be the case, or that will be the case for the foreseeable future. I can't say always be the case. We don't want it to always be the case.
to clarify, so you mean somebody who already lived in what had been the
That's right.
catchment should not have any fear that all of a
They
sudden
won't.
there's no seat at 180.
Right, because the level of zone retention, as you look at the slide that's on the screen right now, is very, very low. Of the 40 kids, and by the way, a zone size of 40 students is already low, right? That means it's not a full, you're getting 2 sections per grade and so on. So what this does is it's a policy that reflects what already is happening. And this is an opportunity to do it only because we're having an intervention in the PS76, and it's important, and so we can talk more broadly. I think John had a follow-up comment in the chat, which is, as long as parents are told there's enough space. Yeah, exactly. All right. So I could tell, John, that you were probably referring to those two schools. So yes, we will make sure in our engagement process that we talk about that. Thank you.
There is space for those sections across.
Yep.
Right
Yep. Yep.
Next, you have a question.
So if they're not enrolling in their school, and my second part, sorry.
Right. So something else to think about to answer some of the question about where are our students going, right? This is data that we went through in our Harlem working group conversations, and you see it used to be like the vast majority of kids or many students would be going to charter schools and so on. We don't necessarily see that same trend anymore. The majority, obviously charter schools are also experiencing enrollment challenges. And so I would say some of the big buckets is students going to school in other schools within the district, other district schools, and also students moving out of the city, right? And then also we see some movement to parochial schools or private schools. So I would say those are some of the big drivers. But the one about kids moving out of the city is actually a pretty big, a sizable number. That was your question, Kristen. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry. Okay, great question. So, yep, I'll answer. So this PS76 is a K-8 school, and so for the middle school students, they would be guaranteed a spot in Mont Hall, right? So those students will merge into the middle school of Mont Hall, right? If you're in like 6th and 7th grade. For the students who are in K-5, those students will get a choice as though they would, let's say we're in kindergarten again, they will get a choice to go to, first of all, any school essentially in District 3 with seats, or, but by and large, they'll probably be going to school in many ways, they'll be going to school we'll definitely promote that they stay in Harlem. Oh, so PS76 is co-located with a District 75 school. That District 75 school in this proposal would be resited to the 180 building, And the reason for that is twofold. Like a 180 building is a nicer building, but also because they want to continue their inclusion program. And so there wouldn't be elementary school students in PS 76 for them to do the improvement program. So it's better for them to be in co-located with an elementary school. And I think and so no, PS 76 doesn't necessarily have more students with disabilities than any similar school. Obviously they have more than that.
Just the more kids, the more you can support an ICT class. Is that what you mean?
So the District 75 school has students who take classes in PS 76. So they go in and so it's not it's responsive to their needs, and if they can be in a general ed classroom or ICT classroom, we take that, they're allowed to do that, or it gives them the opportunity to be able to do that.
They're in 180.
They'll have exactly. You could ask as many as you want. I think I'll outlast you. It's okay. Yeah. Well, what the law says is that you must be served by your zone school if you want to go to your zone school. So we can't say it's your zone school, but actually you have an IEP, so go to another school. Like, oh, we don't even have, or even we can't say we don't have your program. We can give you services that align to that program within your school. We shouldn't, and no school should be turning a student away because of their IEP needs.
I did also want to add about some of the benefits of resiting the D75 site is that the students wouldn't be located on a floor with any other students. They would have the whole top floor of PS 180, and they wouldn't have to share bathrooms with other students. They would have the whole floor to themselves, which we've heard is something that the school, they're very excited about the idea to be resited. They already have a relationship with the principal of PS 180 because she used to be the AP at 76. And it's a more accessible building. All the classrooms are accessible. They have an accessible auditorium. So they're excited about the prospect of being resited. Nobody else would be located in that building. It would just be used for the 6 to 12 Mott Hall, merged Mott Hall, PS 76. Which is, they need the space in the building as well, so.
I have a quick question. I'm wondering how either proposal A or proposal B in general, how will that address the challenges with enrollment we've had in our Harlem students for a while? How do you see this addressing those enrollment issues?
So I would say, I don't think that it will have any sort of significant impact because I think we have space to accommodate both, and it will open up opportunities with the shared zone for more students to explore across current zones. But I don't think it would make a significant difference either way. It wouldn't cause enrollment to go down. It wouldn't cause enrollment to go up, I don't think, unless you have anything else.
Yeah,
to add.
not the rezoning proposal per se, but the intervention of reducing the number of seats in elementary school in Harlem D3 will likely have a little bit of an uptick present a little bit of an uptick for the other schools around. I don't think it will be significant enough for us to be long-term sustainable. I think we will continue to have to look at other types of interventions in that part of Harlem.
I also realized I misspoke earlier. Under scenario A, the combination of the 76 and 180 zone, we would anticipate more students for the 180 because they would be under the same zone, but it wouldn't overall significantly change District 3 Harlem enrollment patterns.
The difference between the two proposals, from my perspective, is one puts the vast majority of students, or one puts the zone into one other zone, right? So it says, okay, if you're now zoned for 76, you're going to be zoned for 180. Even visually, when you look at the map, it looks like 180 is going to be a much bigger zone compared to the other schools. And the other one, it says, we already know that we have challenges with enrollment, and that kids and parents are exercising choice throughout our Harlem schools and outside of Harlem schools. So it makes sense to have a policy that reflects what's actually happening.
Sorry, have you done like a survey of every single parent, family enrolled currently at PS 76?
No.
Saying, would you rather go to?
No, number one, I'll answer this. Number one, this proposal just became fully public. Number two, rezoning is your job. Number three, we feel that we should, if we're gonna engaging, voting on rezoning is what CEC do. If we're gonna engage, we should do that together, and we can talk about what kind of
format
that takes place.
Because I just wonder with the option A, if it's the 180.
Yes.
Is it potentially just because even though they're already making choices, people think, oh, I'm zoned for 180. Does it ultimately make 180 a big enough school that its funding goes up enough that you can actually offer more robust programming?
I think that would be a potential plus of that.
Hey guys, can I just jump in to answer?
I just wanted to follow more into ODP. So when you say future action,
right? We're saying that there could be future truncations of other Harlem schools.
Due to enrollment challenges. This is not like a panacea. For them.
Right, it's not, but I don't necessarily think an intervention automatically means like truncations or mergers or some. I think we really would have to have a deep conversation with folks in the way that we did now, to get to where we are today. So what that looks like, I mean, you know, as a department or as the New York City Public Schools, we do that in various ways. An intervention could look like an additional program that you don't currently have, additional ideas around how to create or replicate another model in there. So we could redesign. Like there are other options besides jumping immediately to truncation, merger, or closure. I think all of those conversations have to be had within the context of our Harlem Working Group, and we'll see where we land. But I do believe I don't think we can stand still. I think we need to continue to have conversations about what the future of Harlem elementary schools and middle schools look like. Yep. Sure, I'd like to add to that a little bit. This engagement process was the most robust engagement process I've ever been a part of. We initially, just to add a little bit more context to what Caitlin said, the idea was to truncate all of our K-8 schools in Harlem and create one middle school, right? Folks in the Harlem Working Group recognize that wouldn't give us a big enough school that was sustainable. It's like, we're going through all of this for 200 kids, like that doesn't feel right. So then that's where the idea of a school outside of Harlem to create like an anchor school, and then you were still able to truncate the other schools, middle schools, and combine them with Mahal, that would have created one big middle school. And so what Caitlin is talking about is that a lot of our parents in that process, the initial process, we also proposed a merger of the elementary school grades of PS 76 with 180. No, when we did that, parents said, wait, so that means I have to go to 180. That means like, oh, I want the choice of other schools. And that's when it became more of a truncation than a merger. And then when we talked to the Mott Hall folks, they were like, wait, why are you moving us? Like, well, I don't know. But if it were a 6 through 12, like that would make it more, that would give us something to move for, because we would then not have to worry about the high school process. So those are the different, and so that kind of provided some of the machinations or of the proposal.
Forgive me, the K through 8.
Are you off mute? Just making sure so that people can hear.
So what K through 8s would be remaining in our?
149 would remain a K. And we're looking at new ideas there, which is why I'm saying it's not necessarily a truncation or anything, but we're looking at new ideas to kind of revitalize or restore 149.
And we plan to continue to engage on the rezoning shared scenario idea and scenarios A and B with the SLTs of all of District 3 Harlem schools. Because we already spoke to the principals who did express a preference for the shared zone, and so we're gonna go back and continue to talk to them and get feedback.
Yes, the principals had a couple conversations about this together. By and large, I think all of the principals preferred the shared zone because it reflected kind of what they see happening in their schools anyways, right? And some principals are like, wait, why would 180 get all of that? You know, whatever. So, and even the 180 principals, like, it makes sense to do a shared zone.
Any questions from anyone or anyone?
I see a question on the chat from John Tomlinson, who said, if parents are told there's enough space.
We answered it.
There was
Yeah,
another one that was earlier.
It's
that
all
had to do with
addressed.
the loss of entitlement to a zone up, one zone
I
up.
think it was the same question. Like we answered it and then he followed up.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we covered all of them.
Cool.
Excellent. So if there's no other questions, thank you so much for Caitlin, for your presentation.
We did have one just timelines and next steps slide for you guys to share really quick. Thank you for your time. I know it's late. We really appreciate it and appreciate the Zoom in person. You guys are great. If we can just go to the next slide. So we're here now. We spoke to you about 2 potential rezoning scenarios. We're going to continue to have conversations. We're joining community meetings impacted by these Harlem proposals over the next month or so. And we're going to continue to have conversations with District 3 Harlem schools. We're also available if you all have any questions for us. We're happy to come back in between now and your October 15th meeting. But we also plan to come back to your October 15th meeting where we will be presenting one rezoning scenario for you all that we would then submit to you all, us and Superintendent Samuels would submit to you all for a vote sometime later in the fall, ideally before the first week in December, because that is when the kindergarten application opens. So we would like to ideally have a rezoning plan voted on, so families know what's going to happen, families know their options when that application opens. And again, the panel for educational policy vote on the proposal set is October 30th. So it's all happening.
That's a great question. So she's asking, so we talked about charter, we didn't talk about the charter school situation in Harlem. None of the proposals, I can't say it's by accident, but none of the proposals involve a co-location with a charter school. So we were able to avoid that scenario for now. I think you're right though to bring up the concern, but this does not it's not relevant for this particular conversation, but I think it's something we should talk about. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll see you again in October.
Oh, wait. Oh, so her, I was.
And of course, to you.
You didn't adjourn.
Oh, we are up to our old business for the calendar meeting. Any CEC3 members have any old business? Excellent. Moving on to new business. Any business, new business. All right, go ahead, Noah.
I was curious if any CEC members have reached out to their schools, their liaison schools, to find out how they're feeling about the potential, whatever cell phone policies might come down the pipe. I'm going to do so for my schools. I was hoping that you all might, and we can perhaps put a resolution that best reflects the desires of the District 3.
Noah's talking about reaching out to our liaison schools who are most directly impacted in rezoning.
No,
Yes?
no, cell phone ban,
In
cell phone
general?
ban.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's ask our schools about a cell phone ban and put together a resolution that reflects District 3's general position. I realize we won't get to everyone, but maybe we can do something that helps guide the superintendent to how the school district's feeling.
Hi, Kristen.
Yeah, I had a parent reach out to me. Apparently there's a petition going on. They're requesting that students who live within 400 of their schools. And I saw that a lot of people signed up. So I'm wondering if
I don't know anything.
I don't know anything more about it.
I'm just aware of said petition and have discussed it internally. I don't know where they are. But that's something that we can join in your advocacy for, if that's, and I can communicate that. So I'll continue. I don't know if how much movement has been made.
Any other new business?
Oh, and to Noah's question, obviously the cell phone policies right now are school based. But if we could just know who's the liaison for each, if you can send that to like which CEC members have which schools, that would be very helpful for us.
Right, you can get there, right? What they need, like the liaison, did they bear yet? No.
We have our list from last year, but we have 3 open vacancies, so we might have to revisit the list once we have our new members here. But we can provide the old list.
Okay.
Anything else for new business?
All right, so thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. I would like to ask about the phone bans, because I know that this is I'm sorry. I would like to ask about the phone ban, because I know this is on hold right now, but many schools already hold devices. But this is okay. I don't against this. But I would like to have opportunity that our kids, parents especially who care about this, and especially for health condition, want to have a iPhone, smartwatch, or any devices just is for calling, won't be available for every. For example, so that's why I keep which this is just so I'm looking but I'm looking for the biggest connection with the kids.
And now that we have a student member not here right now, but I'm sure we'd love to hear the student perspective also on a potential cell phone ban. Any other new business?
Do we want to temporarily assign liaisons to the affected schools, since this is coming down the pike very quickly? So that the affected schools feel like they have a point person or representation, and we can always reassign once there are new CEC members?
We had talked about having perhaps a meeting where we could invite members of the school communities who would be affected to voice before we vote about this Harlem zoning plan. What he had said is that the superintendent's office will be meeting with the school community in the schools to discuss this. They will be doing their outreach, but I think it is important for us to do outreach before we pass the vote. That could have major implications.
I don't think 76 has a CEC rep, do they? Or look at
Last I checked, a lot of Harlem schools were without CEC liaisons due to in part by a lot of members leaving.
Like, I'm happy to take one on, and it could always be reassigned.
Saying that do not have vacancies on our CEC3, there may be some Harlem schools who do not have a CEC3 member who currently has their parent liaison.
We also don't have any Harlem representation on the CEC.
Anything else for new business? All right, next up, liaison reports. Any liaison reports? I know it's the beginning of the year, so maybe come later.
Yes, I have one case of tonight. It's saying, they have a rule.
One 149 has the ceiling. Okay, I'll follow up on that, but so they have a room that they want to use, but the ceiling of the room needs to be fixed. Got it. Yeah, and they want to use it for washing machine. They bought the washing machines, they're there, and they're waiting on the Department of the School Facilities to fix that room. All right, I'll look into it. I was there. Yeah, I didn't see the room, but I saw the washing machines. So yeah.
What did I'm missing?
Any other liaison reports?
Oh.
Any committee reports? We already had Selena speak since she had to leave early, so now we'll open up to public comment from either Zoom or anyone in the audience. So in terms of the communication challenges, we definitely have had those. We have been without an administrative assistant since January. So all the members here who have our own families and jobs have been taking on additional responsibilities. It's been incredibly challenging. We tried to get a new administrative assistant, but there is a hiring freeze in the city due to budget issues. So we had made an offer to a candidate. Well, we hadn't made an offer. We couldn't make an offer. She had to be vetted for multiple months. By the time the offer was made, about 4 or 5 or 6 months later, she had found another position. So that's one of the reasons why communications has been a challenge, but we have our wonderful new AA, Miss Lloyd, to help get the word out. In terms of our website, I understand about the calendar, but on the homepage, the meeting is always posted with a link. We were very adamant about having a Zoom component to continue this so that people who cannot come in person can still join, because we've seen higher participation on Zoom. And we're gonna start getting committees formed to reach out to more of our D3 families. That's absolutely always our goal. I know that even before the pandemic, participation in these meetings was very low. And part of that reason is that we have mayoral control of our schools. Parents, families, our CEC do not have an impact on decisions that are made in our schools, except for zoning, as was brought up tonight. That's the only power we as a CEC3 have. You know, CECs have worked to try to change mayoral control, but we still have that in our city. So those are some of the challenges that we've been facing.
I think it's not under the sequence of the elections. I recall, I always feel like that. But very committed. Making sure that every parent coordinator pushing out to their community, that cities, the elections are happening. There are many emails that is all over there. Like every individual submitted the election. And I feel believe that there are some great candidates in the room. I believe them. So I would say I would encourage you to go around. It's not just the electorate that is and that represents the yeah, it's not like the election suffer from a pretty low turnout, but in times of parent organizations are allowed to out so I think places endorsed, you know, outside majority. So it's kind of an interesting helping at the district to have a better representation of I think it's better than that. We have all of our
You understand what I'm saying?
I want to thank Chair Faulkner for taking the time to visit our CEC3 tonight. We changed the date of our CEC3 meeting so we would be able to attend the PEP meeting. So we are very interested in the work all of you are doing. We're happy and excited to hear about these new developments, to give more of a voice. And of course, one of our own, Naveed, currently serves on the PEP. So we definitely have that connection with the PEP. We're super excited for that. I also, Faith was mentioned. I want to introduce our new face representative to CEC3, Lalita, is joining us. We're looking forward to a very productive relationship with Faith moving forward. I think that would be the adjournment of our calendar meeting. Do we want to take a break before our business meeting? 5 minutes, thank you. Oh wait, motion to adjourn the meeting. All right, 5-minute break, thank you.
All right.
So end time 9:20?
Hi, this is interpreters. Are we still needed after the break or are we dismissed? Hi, are services still required or are we dismissed? Hello? I think your microphones are on mute, so we can't hear you, the interpretation team.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to our September business meeting. I'm gonna call this meeting to order, and we're gonna do our roll call again of CEC3 members.
Noah?
Yeah.
Jill?
Here.
Stephanie Sue, Superintendent, Sharon Collins.
Here.
Kristen? Here.
Ramada.
Gail?
Here.
Dr. Wong?
Here.
Yes, yeah.
We are once again the approval of our August business meeting minutes. And in terms of old business, I'm gonna turn the mic over to Yael we need to have a special meeting in order to interview our candidates for our vacancies. We would like to discuss that and about Yael has a proposal for the questions we're gonna ask.
So I found that there were four candidates that were interested, but I only could find approvals for 3.
That's correct.
Okay, so there's 3. I'm gonna start a Google Doc with questions and we can agree upon the questions. And they'll be the same questions for all the candidates. And then we'll give them a certain amount of time to answer. Does that sound right? And I can contact them if you want.
Sounds good. We want to set a date right now.
We can do a special meeting at the next meeting?
We can meet, we need more time, but we could theoretically a half hour before at our October meeting to do our reviews and then go at the calendar meeting.
We can't do it during, it has to be before.
Correct.
Okay. And we'll tell the 1,000 people that we're doing this so that we'll notify okay. Okay, so I'm gonna share that with everyone tomorrow. The questions, we'll ask the same questions to the 3 candidates. Hopefully 3 of them are still interested, and we'll come up with a timer. We don't need to do that at the time. So okay. Right, as long as everyone gets the same time, same questions, and open, okay, perfect.
So our LCC members are able to meet a half hour before the meeting to start everything at 6 so we can do the special meeting.
What is the date of October
15th? October 15th.
Do we have a location?
We do.
So where is it?
Is there a place I should put the Google document? Like a drive?
Do we have a shared drive? Could we have a shared drive?
75? 76? Where is the meeting? No, which school?
We'll just, do we have a shared
Which school?
drive? Okay.
Do we have a calendar that we can share with all the members of what weeks?
I would love if we are allowed
We can send
to.
that around. We can send that in. We didn't make any changes.
Like, are we allowed to have a shared drive where we keep like our list of liaisons or something? No.
You have the dates, he says.
Sharon, so I will email them tomorrow and CC you.
Approvals.
Well, I can CC everyone and just to invite you for the 3 candidates. I found 3 that were approved. By face.
So half hour, we need 10 minutes per candidate. Do you feel like that's ample time?
What school are we gonna do?
For all questions for each candidate?
School, because we're meeting right after.
What school is gonna meet?
I think 76.
76.
Oh, we're gonna go to 76?
Like
For the next meeting?
Do you think we can get each candidate in 10 minutes? Or do we need to start before 6?
Like 5:30 is not good?
I agree.
It's all early. 6? 6? It's 3, so What you trying, because our meeting is 6:30. So if it's 3 people.
Yeah.
How many minutes you gonna give them?
How many minutes did we even get when we had we were on the clock and we had a few questions? Right, so it's about that. We can,
Just like give them a, I mean, I'm saying.
we'll just have to make sure
5:45?
we could do 90 seconds.
I think 5:45.
5:45.
There's always a follow-up question.
5:45?
Someone said 76. I have to check it out. It sounds right. They are.
What is your question?
The names of our three.
There were two Johns.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Sherry.
Oh, we have Sharon again?
And then there was another name, but are you sure that?
only 3 names were approved and vetted by ACE. That's her name is Lisa. All right, great. So yeah, I will send around document versus the current document. We said we'll do a special meeting for our October 15th meeting, starting at 5:45 p.m. to conduct the interviews. Then at that calendar meeting, we actually go on candidates, which would be excellent, so that we can fill our vacancies. Any other thoughts on candidate interviews? Excellent. So now we're going to move into, we have many resolutions that we finally want to vote on. We have quorum, so this is excellent. I'm going to go in the order that are listed in our agenda. I know that some of you may want to table, or just not vote on, since some of these were from a long time ago. So our first agenda was a resolution on the reinstatement of Caroline Quintana.
Next, I just like to table this to rewrite, because the main of the resolution was the equal salary for women and men.
So yes, well, we can table that. Sadly, Hugh is no longer with the DOE. She was amazing, but at this point, nothing could change. All right, so the next in our list, the resolution on transparency in school decision making.
Sharon, did we ever get back to the translators about still needing, like whether or not we still need them?
Do you need the translators?
Is there anybody on who would like to translate it?
Does anyone in the audience or on Zoom need translation?
On the audience appears to me, guys, let's just ask you.
I need two.
Person said you might need the translators to ask if anyone needs.
Wait, can our translators check if anyone needs translation?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No questions on French line, nothing.
Same on Russian line, no answer. I'm not sure if anyone's in the room. I assume not.
No one in the Spanish line.
Thank you so much, interpreters, for your service tonight. I think we don't have anyone here who needs interpretation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, our next resolution is on transparency in school decision-making. Would any of the sponsors like to bring this resolution to a vote, or we can have a discussion about it first? I'll second the motion. We have to read it into the record. Dr. D, would you like to read the resolution?
Somebody may be the host. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, but someone may be the host and I can't leave the meeting without canceling the meeting.
Oh, now, yes. This was in the already. Do it again. Now it's working. It's on.
Right, one time. Support transparency in decision making. Whereas it's imperative that the decisions impacting our schools and communities are made with the full consultation of parents and stakeholders, whereas transparency and clear communication are a fundamental for fostering trust and understanding within our district. Be it resolved that all decisions regarding school placement, relocation, merge must be truly discussed and consulted with the affected parents and community members prior to implementation and prior to any dollars will be spent on it. Clear and comprehensive information regarding the decision-making process, including the parties involved and the rationale behind the decision, must be provided to the community in a timely manner. Parents and students affected with transfer periods resulting from such decisions should be granted the option to choose an alternative school within the district, and the superintendent must ensure availability placement in the selected school if families are dissatisfied with the new arrangement. It's imperative that we prioritize these needs and concerns of our community members to ensure a fair and equitable education environment for all. And we discussed about this resolution was changed by our discussion last time. So this is the final version.
So Before we go to Stacy and Spanish interpretation line.
Hi, I was trying to leave the meeting, but someone made me the host. So if I leave the meeting, it cancels the meeting for everyone.
You can assign Cicely to be the host. Right-click the dots near her name and say make host. You'll see some dots next to her name in the participants list.
Working on that right now.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Are we ready to do approval? All right, Cicely, can you call roll again? We're gonna vote on this resolution. You can just go down the line. And this is the resolution on transparency in school decision making.
Tina, Noah,
Yeah, yes.
Jill. Yes. Darren.
Yes.
Nicola.
Yes.
Dr. B.
Yes.
Yes.
So is that, we have 8 yes votes, right? All right, so the resolution passes. We look forward to sending it to DOE and hearing their response. All right, next resolution is the resolution to inform D3 parents about Moms for Liberty, sponsored by Noah.
Yes, so this resolution stems from a request made by a D3 parent for us to condemn Moms for Liberty based on what they do and what they've done. And it came about because they had like sort of like a coming out party that they were existed in New York City sometime in the last January. And that's how long we've been working on this resolution. It was also, I should add that it was born out of the lack of this council wanting to actively condemn Moms for Liberty. There's precedent. Other CECs have done it. We have chosen not to do it. Not sure why. I have my speculations, but that doesn't matter. So now we have this resolution that's just, it's a little watered down, but it's got the facts. It's got, you know, good references that point to each one of these things that help parents make their own decisions about whether or not this is a group that they want to be affiliated with as they come courting parents in D3. And also, you know, I was told not to mention any specific names, but there were parents in D3 who attended this. So this is a relevant topic to this issue. When it comes to parent advocacy, this is one of the things that we've been asked to advocate for on behalf of LGBTQI plus students. In part, they also trying to ban books that teach about African-American history. So this is where we are now, this resolution that just lets people know what's going on, lets people know the kind of very far right-wing groups that are trying to court our parents in D3. So that's where we are. And yeah, any other questions? Anyone have any questions? Or whatever it is we're supposed to do now?
Any questions? Any questions before Noah reads the resolution into the record? All right, Noah, go ahead and read it.
All right, here we go. Resolution to inform District 3 about quote unquote parental rights organization Moms for Liberty. Whereas Moms for Liberty held a town hall in New York City on January 18th, 2024 to announce its presence in one of the largest school districts in the country. Whereas Moms for Liberty presents itself as a grassroots organization working around issues of parental rights, falling just short of explaining exactly what that work entails. Whereas Southern Poverty Law Center declared Moms for Liberty to be an anti-government extremist group, specifically saying that Moms for Liberty is a far-right organization that engages in anti-student inclusion activities and opposes LGBTQ+ and racially inclusive school curriculum, and has advocated book bans. The social media accounts and real-world activity of the national organization and its chapters reflect views and actions that are anti-government, conspiracy propagandist, anti-LGBTQ, anti-gender identity, and anti-inclusive curriculum. Whereas at the Moms for Liberty Town Hall, Moms for Liberty co-founder Tiffany Justice declared that Moms for Liberty believes that gender ideology has no place in public schools. Whereas in July 2022, the Moms for Liberty Twitter, now known as X, account was temporarily suspended for violating the social media platform's rule against hateful conduct after Moms for Liberty posted in response to California's gender transition bill that gender dysphoria is a mental health disorder that is being normalized by predators across the USA. Whereas an Indiana chapter of Moms for Liberty used a quote commonly attributed to Adolf Hitler on recruiting materials. Whereas a Moms for Liberty Miami-Dade County member suggested moving LGBTQ+ students to separate classrooms, comparing them to students with special needs, saying, for example, children with autism, Down syndrome, they have to have special IP meetings with a counselor. They have to be put into separate classrooms. I understand because it's a different type of education for children with those disabilities. But I think that for children that identify differently, there should also be like a specialized something for them so that they feel that they are important enough that they are being counseled. Whereas in August 2022, Moms for Liberty co-founder Bridget Ziegler celebrated her election to the Sarasota, Florida School Board by flashing white power signs with the members of the Proud Boys, an organization also designated by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group, and organizers of the Unite to the Right event in Charlottesville, Virginia, where Jews will not replace us was chanted repeatedly. In my day, it wasn't cool to interact with people who are were incredibly anti-Semitic, or to support them. Whereas in December 2022, the Anti-Defamation League noted that Moms for Liberty teamed up with the Proud Boys and Gays Against Groomers to host an anti-LGBTQ+ rally in Florida. Whereas in 2021, a Tennessee chapter of Moms for Liberty was the first to file a complaint under the state's new anti-CRT bill, taking issue with the book by Ruby Bridges on her experiences integrating a school, and also one on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which they called anti-American, anti-white, and anti-Mexican, specifically taking issue with Bridges' recollections of a white mob yelling at her on the way to school, and pictures of firemen hosing Black children in the MLK March on Washington. Whereas the New York City Department of Education has committed to a cultural view of learning and human development in which multiple forms of diversity, for example, race, social class, gender, language, sexual orientation, nationality, religion, and ability, are recognized, understood, and regarded as indispensable sources of knowledge for rigorous teaching and learning. Whereas it is stated policy of the NYC DOE to support lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer or questioning students, families, and staff across the 5 boroughs through a variety of police policies and programs. Whereas it is the stated policy of the NYC DOE to maintain a safe and supportive learning environment that is free from harassment, intimidation, and/or bullying, sexual harassment, and discrimination on account of actual or perceived race, color, age, creed, ethnicity, national origin, citizenship/immigration status, religion, gender, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, disability, or weight. Whereas students do better academically when they feel understood and safe in their school community. Whereas among other directives, community education councils are tasked with providing input to the chancellor and the panel for educational policy on district concerns and presenting factual information to the district's parent community. Therefore, be it resolved that the District 3 Community Education Council presents the above facts to district leaders, parents, and students about Moms for Liberty so that they may be better informed about the anti-Black, anti-LGBTQ+, and anti-Semitic organization that this hate group has participated in, so that the D3 community can make informed decisions about what is right for them and their family. Therefore, be it resolved that the District 3 Community Education Council celebrates the NYC DOE policy of respect for all and asserts that the New York City public school system has no place for hate.
Now switch to a vote.
Yes.
Jill? Sharon? Yes. Kristen?
Yes.
Gail?
No.
Dr. Juan?
Yes.
Abstain.
So we have 6 yeses, 1 no, 1 abstention, correct? We need 7 to pass.
So the resolution fails.
Resolution fails.
Resolution fails. Should tell you everything you need to know.
All right, next we have another resolution from NOAA on our LGBTQ plus resolution. Oh, sorry, there were, yeah, it's that. Yeah, okay, up for students and families.
Well, if you like that one, you're going to love this one. Are there any questions? So again, once again, this is put forth because parents in District 3 have asked for the CEC to advocate for their families and their children. Let's read this resolution into whatever it is. How about it? Is it we're good to go? Does anyone have any questions? Are you tone checking me? Would you like me to change my tone? I could change my tone if that makes you more comfortable. I wouldn't want you to be uncomfortable. So can I read it? Resolution in support of District 3 LGBTQ plus students and families. Whereas New York's Dignity for All Students Act seeks to prevent discrimination on the basis of a student's gender identity or expression. Whereas it is the policy of the New York City Department of Education to maintain a safe and supportive school environment for all students, free from harassment, intimidation, and/or bullying, and free from discrimination on account of actual or perceived gender identity, gender expression, and/or sexual orientation. Whereas it is the policy of the NYC DOE to provide policies and programs that are specifically supportive of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer or questioning LGBTQ plus students, families, and staff across our 5 boroughs. Whereas there are reports that many schools in New York have policies or practices that are discriminatory against LGBTQ plus students. Whereas there have been increased concerns across New York City and within the District 3 community regarding discrimination against and failures to support LGBTQ plus students and families. Whereas negative treatment by others, such as bullying and/or discrimination, is linked and consistent risk factor for suicidal behavior, ideation, and attempts among youth. Whereas transgender and non-binary students in particular have been found to experience gender-based discrimination in schools and bullying at a significantly greater rates than their straight and cisgender peers. Whereas LGBTQ+ students are 4 times as likely than their peers to contemplate suicide. Whereas LGBTQ+ students who reported their school to be LGBTQ+ affirming report significantly lower rates of being bullied as compared to students in schools that are not LGBTQ+ affirming. Therefore, be it resolved that the climate of activists trying to undo NYC DOE safeguards for LGBTQ+ students and families. Community Education Council 3 affirms the commitment to supporting schools and the NYC DOE in maintaining LGBTQ+ affirming environments, with affirming interpreted as creating an environment where LGBTQ+ youth are less likely to experience bullying. Therefore, be it resolved that CEC3 affirms commitment to supporting DASA. Therefore, be it resolved that CEC3 affirms commitment to supporting NYC DOE stated policies in support of LGBTQ+ students and families.
Thank you, Noah. We will now vote on this resolution.
This is our support of D3 LGBTQ+ students and families resolution.
Yes.
Yes. The resolution passes 8-0. Our next resolution is on opposing Islamophobia and anti-Semitism in District 3, also sponsored by Noah.
This resolution actually wasn't supposed to be on the agenda. I faced a lot of cyberbullying based on even proposing this in the first place, and out of a need to make sure that my family is safe, my community is safe, I have not touched this resolution since it was first introduced. And that is what it is. It's the climate we're in.
Yeah, on that note, try to have agenda at least a week ahead of time for members to give us this feedback so that before we publish it on our website, we can have it as accurate as possible. So our new AA will be from now on posting the agenda at least a week in advance. Please, CEC members, read that email, give us some feedback so we can have as accurate agenda as possible. I know we were supposed to have interviews tonight. People were ready to come. It got canceled up last minute. You want to be respectful of people's time and have our agenda be as accurate. All right, so we'll move on to our next resolution, which is the resolution on Harlem Schools rezoning plan. Okay, so we're here tonight, co-sponsored by Dr. D. Thank you. Yes, we heard that at our October meeting, we will hear from the ODP about which proposal they're moving forward with. I think we got a hint tonight which one that's going to be, and then we will revisit this. All right, and the final resolution is our resolution on AI, co-sponsored by Dr. Juan and Dr. D.
And me.
And Juan.
Okay.
By the way, anyone who wants to join the co-sponsor is very welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So Dr. D originally drafted this plan of resolution based on our agreement on the changing digital context and also the increasingly pervasive technology of AI. So we want our teachers and families to be prepared and also to be protected as we face both opportunities and risks. So I appreciate the feedback from our council members. So I have made some changes. I think most of you read it in the summer. So I propose to read it, and then we can vote or discuss further. CEC3 resolution regarding responsible implementation of generative artificial intelligence in public schools, sponsored by Dr. Darling, Mary May, and Dr. Tingyuan and Ramada, updated on July 22nd, 2024. The Community Education Council in NYC School District, recognizing the increasingly pervasive technology of generative artificial intelligence, generative AI, used in this resolution, acknowledges the potential opportunities and challenges posed by generative AI uses in the classroom. As generative AI technology continues to advance, it is a crucial time to provide a responsible and ethical 21st century educational experience for P12 students and families under the changing digital context of learning and the mandate of the New York State Computer Science and Digital Fluency Standards. Whereas CEC3 is committed to ensuring that the education provided to students in our district is forward-thinking, equitable, and student-centered. Whereas generative AI technology offers potential opportunities as well as risks for educational experiences. Whereas with responsible and ethical guidance through professional development for school leaders and teachers, generative AI has the potential to innovate education by offering personalized learning, increase efficiency, and broadening interdisciplinary access to educational resources. Whereas there's a need to mitigate risks of data privacy and algorithmic biases when integrating generative AI in education. Whereas there's a need to inform teachers, students, and families of the benefits, risks, and ethics of using generative AI. Whereas it is a crucial time for District 3 to provide professional development to school leaders and teachers for responsible and ethical uses of generative AI tools in the classroom. Resolve that CEC3 urges that NYC DOE takes timely steps to support school leaders and teachers' knowledge and classroom pilot by immediately developing a guideline for generative AI in education. Resolved that CEC3 advocates for professional development programs to equip school leaders and educators with the timely skills to responsibly and ethically integrate generative AI tools and to continue to focus on student-centered teaching and learning experiences enacted in school curriculum. Resolve that CEC3 urges public schools within District 3 to explore creative learning brought by generative AI to assist in classroom-based personalized learning and curriculum planning. Resolve that CEC3 encourages collaboration between our district and higher education institutions to develop responsible and ethical generative AI guidelines alongside implementing the New York State Computer Science and Digital Fluency Standards. Resolve that CEC3 calls upon government bodies to allocate resources for research and development in generative AI applications in education with a focus on creating safeguards against risks and biases, thus ensuring that generative AI integration and related P12 computer science education programs benefit all students equitably and creatively.
Thank you. All right, we'll do our roll call vote once again. Oh, sorry, we can open discussion, yes.
I have just one quick thing, which is that, you know, I want to say, I'm speaking with some of the parents in D3. I plan on voting for this, but I also think it's important to mention that when we use AI to circumvent jobs that other people would have done, for example, videographing, a bunch of translators announcing that the district has translation or services for those language, as we do on our CEC website, it puts parents who work in those kinds of fields out of work. So I think that this resolution is very prescient, and thank you for bringing it forward. And I hope that not putting parents out of work is part of the DOE's thing on AI guidelines.
I want to echo what Noah was saying. Maybe not the DOE, but tech pros see AI as a way to motivate teachers also. So that's something I definitely want to flag that also. So thank you, Noah, that the services provided by our amazing translators, our teachers, right? These are people who are irreplaceable, and we don't want the use of AI to replace these important services, but we want it to make for our business centers a better student experience, support teachers, as Kamara mentioned tonight. But it is a fine line. There are people who envision a very different future for education.
So what potential modifications can be added to the resolution? Council members, please feel free to suggest or type in the chat so I make notes.
Before we have just suggested language, I just wanted to ask folks or have you respond to today at the State of the Schools, the Chancellor addressed AI pretty extensively. And he talked about how, obviously he wasn't talking about replacing teachers, but how AI can be used for assessments. And it could analyze in real time, like the work that students are producing in the class and at home, and thus help with personalized learning plans for each kid. I don't know anything more about that than what he said, but curious if anybody had any thoughts or reflections on that.
Right. So to give everyone the context, last year, generative AI was forbidden in NYC schools. This year, since the summer, selected districts have opened the use of Magic School AI. And just now we heard from the superintendent's report, selected schools D3 will start to pilot that's called a new AI tool, right? So I think Toddle, right? So I think you know, AI potentially put certain jobs, certain users vulnerable. At the same time, because it's coming and it's part of the context, and school have already started using them, but our teachers are not fully prepared. So I think we need to prepare our teachers and the parents for the new landscape. At the same time, we want to make sure we always put students at the center and make sure AI tools can be used critically to improve the quality of teaching and learning, while we could protect vulnerable population involved, and also try to avoid AI biases in the process, because AI is a large database. It's based on the human use of data, and it's built on the previous people's data. So we want to make sure our teachers, you know, and students, they understand how to use them responsibly and ethically.
And of course, the data will be protected. And this is always two-way car, like anything else. You need to know that the people who use these tools know how to use this. And this is why the resolution is to give a chance to everybody to learn how to use this properly.
If it's not too late, I would like to co-sponsor this resolution, but if that time has passed.
Yeah, so we could add assessment further to the draft because Jill just mentioned, and also we could add a short statement on protecting vulnerable population, including families involved in incorporating AI.
I think it's a good resolution. I'm ready to vote on it. I think it provides those.
I think it provides the DOE a fact that we're listening, we're paying attention, and we expect them to make the right choices regarding how they provide guidelines for AI. So I think it's fine. It doesn't need, I think we can vote on it. I personally would vote on this today.
Okay. So.
I agree. It's good that we're talking about this and thinking about it. Thank both of you for bringing this resolution and your expertise in that area to this council and to the parents and the nation.
Yes, I'd like to echo the sentiments from Noah and Jill. I was at an AI conference back in, AI talk back in May, and there was a quote there that really resonated with me. It was saying that people will not be replaced, or jobs will not be replaced by AI, but they will be replaced by people who use AI. So this is a very timely conversation. Our students are already, whether it's inside or outside of school. So I think this is a very important resolution. We can now put to a vote.
Noah? Yes. Jill?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Linda? Yes. Ramada? Dale?
Yes.
Dr. Juan?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Resolution passes 8-0. All right, I think that's all of our.
Thank you. You took the lead in the beginning, right?
All right, so now let's do new business.
You're all dead.
Our first item for our new business is two things with the budget. We discussed, approve and vote on our 2024-25 budget. And we need to make a motion to approve reimbursement for our CEC3 members from last year, from this year's budget, because all of their requests were just denied without any reason. And Ursula and I were on a bunch of meetings to get this resolved. So we have to do both of those things. I guess we'll have to share about the budget. Reimbursement will be used to reimburse members, right? We have no access to our P card anyway, so that's like a great. Let's sit down. Without a permit, we have no access. All right, vote to approve the budget and with the suggestion that our previously done.
We need a similar form to vote on this kind of stuff as we do resolutions.
It's a face question.
You know what, let's do it fast.
Do we vote to approve the budget quickly before Noah has to go?
Motion approved.
Yes,
Motion
we can
vote.
vote, we need to vote, right? I think Tracy already needs to vote.
Noah?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Kristen? Ramada? Dale? Dr. Juan? Dr. B?
Yes.
Do we need a motion to apply last year's expenses? I'd like to make a motion to apply last year's expenses to this year's budget.
Yes. Yes, and again, we want to apologize, of course, Faith was not very helpful in this matter, right? We asked them what was needed, our members submitted what we thought was needed. They were all summarily denied.
And there's still a lot of meetings to try to get this rectified. So please, members, resubmit what you submitted last year. So Ms. Lloyd, she will enter it. We already provided the documentation that was needed, she will hopefully get reimbursed.
Thank you, Sharon and Ursula.
All right, so now we're up to talking about committees for our upcoming academic year. I know that Mar had mentioned something about an attendance committee. As a possibility, we have our math council that's going to be started up. And we had talked about having some type of Harlem committee to hear from our Harlem families about their feelings before we do this vote on Harlem zoning. What are our thoughts on committees?
Try and fill the vacant seats before we go committees.
The Harlem one is, that is the one where if you want to, they are proposing the PEP on October 30th.
And when would the PEP
So
vote?
instead of late fall,
When would the PEP vote be?
October 30th.
This,
It's the truncation of PS 76, the expansion of our hall.
So
and
if
the
we,
resetting of 275.
so if we want to have a Harlem rezoning committee and have a meeting, we really have to do that in the next couple weeks.
Exactly, so we should talk about now when we are available to hear from the community. We listen put in the chat, I don't hear anymore, but the data supports this decision, right? We looked at the data about where students in Harlem are going to school. However, the proposal is to have Harlem be unzoned while the rest of District 3 is zoned. And there's a perception issue that we could face, and we want to hear from families what they think before we pass a vote. Because like, again, like they're showing data, right? They presented their data. However, this is talking about a conceptually a fundamental change, right? Going from a zone system to a zone system. So we think it's important to hear from Harlem families before we pass a vote. It's looking like that would be at least, I'd say November, that's when they want us to vote on this, which is rapidly approaching, right?
So a committee meeting could be on Zoom or in person,
I think
right?
we could do it on Zoom, right? Or we could do hybrid, right? Have that option. Kumar and Ariel are going to the schools to talk to them directly, but I think we should also have a meeting to hear directly from her.
I agree.
First media, our school is here, and see the attend the first media meeting and ask about it.
If that's appropriate, I don't know.
So I think it's great. My concern is it being the first time being so much kind of engaged by it. We're here, so you don't want to see much of engage in a conversation that maybe they have to they may not want someone open, but in terms of engaging, get together, just talk about the feelings, face amongst their fellow parents in school. You want to be mindful of that. And so I would maybe go in your role, in my role, but I'm hesitant to engage in that conversation. It's just so that's the thing they're after. That might be who they just came out. And I think they are probably just going to happen. I don't know if that's not anything around it.
That's exactly what Tracy's saying. You would be listening. It's part of like, no, exactly. It would just be absolutely listening from our perspective. Yes. Important things to right. An important thing to note is that regardless of our vote, the proposal does not depend on our vote. So PS76 ceases to exist, whatever our vote is. My vote will be expanded, right? All of that is, they need us to vote, but they're saying we'll go through whatever our vote is. Maybe that takes a little bit of time, I don't know. But it was designed that way, right? And like the question I raised is that this has been a challenge, right? Our enrollment in our public schools predating this council. And as Kumar said, he has formed up our working group, and this is a continuing conversation. This is not the end of, it might be school foundations and closures. This is the first step that's happening. So do we have any possible dates or when time frame where we want such meetings to happen? And is there anyone who would like to share that committee?
This is the rezoning. The rezoning. I have to, sorry.
So this will be a very short-lived committee, because we're really talking about a less than 6-week process.
Yeah, in the past, there was, in some form or another, around the committee.
I'm happy to do it. If anybody wants to co-chair with me, that would be great. Me and Ramon.
Still in Ramada, so look out for emails, still in Ramada. We would love to have a lot of CEC3 representation meetings, so we can hear what families have to say before that vote, ideally, and before we do our vote. And our final item on our agenda was discussion of school liaisons, so I'm going to propose we table that until we have our interviews for our new members. Adjournment of this meeting.
Second.
Thank you.
It's the most productive meeting we've had in a year. Sharon, woo! I mean,